All right, another Victory Monday with the Drake Bulldog football team, and here with head coach Joe Woodley. And 1916 win out in San Diego. There's something about these games where they come down to the final play, and for Drake, getting wins each of the last 3 years, finding a different way to do it this year with a game-winning 55-yard field goal. What are like the emotions like after a game like that on the West Coast? You're coming back, and just all the excitement that went into it.
Yeah, Michael. And, before the game I had heard, or I guess I saw it, I waited till about Thursday of last week to watch last year's game, and wow, what a crazy game that was. And I think Chuck or somebody had mentioned to me, and maybe I knew, every game or the last two games will come down to the last play, and that certainly really wasn't rattling around in my head as the game was unfolding there down the stretch. And quite frankly, I certainly didn't think it needed to come down to the last play. We had some miscues there that kind of led to it being the last play of the game, but I think it just shows you, how tough a group of guys we have, as you mentioned, making the trip out to the West Coast time zones, first flight, potential distractions, and our guys stayed, pretty much laser focused. We were down at halftime, some things didn't go our way, and I thought we were playing pretty well, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and then we kind of give up one fluke play that really was kind of the difference in the game, at least to that point. But I told our guys at halftime, when your opponent's digging into the bag like that to try and create a spark, that tells me we're in a good place, because they're searching for some answers on offense. Because like I said, by and large, the entire day our defense stepped up time and time again to keep that thing within a one-possession game, which is where we needed it to be. When you're on the road, you always just against a very good opponent like San Diego. Historically, they're one of the best teams in this league over the course of time, and you just want to have an opportunity to win the game in the fourth, and our guys just kept hanging in there, and just kept chopping, sawing the old wood, I guess, so to speak. And and some guys made some big plays and some big moments, and really, some guys that, number one, I couldn't be more proud of, but guys that have been in this program for a while, been in that game. Luke Woodson, is kind of one of the first names that comes to mind, and he gets the big run to get us on the board, breaks 2 tackles, and creates some momentum for us, and then he gets another run late in the game, on a 4th and 1. I had about 3 other opportunities in the game to go for it on 4th and 1, and second-guessed myself, as most coaches do, but I think we waited for the right one to do it on, and Woody bailed me out. He gets a 6-yard run on 4th and 1 to kind of go down and set us up. And again, a senior captain, those are the guys that were making plays in that game. A lot of them were, and again, on the defensive side of the ball, and really all over. All age groups, right? Nick Herman made a bunch of big plays as a true freshman, and again, a lot of positives, and certainly a pretty joyous flight home, that's for sure. So it was a great day. It was a beautiful day for a game. Kind of what you'd expect in San Diego, 73 and sunny, and great college football atmosphere, that's for sure.
I love the success that Luke Woodson is having this year. I mean, that's what this is all about. A couple long touchdown runs, a touchdown here at Drake Stadium. You love to see guys like that have moments like that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And he's just one of those kind of unsung heroes. And and I'm sure there's been moments where Woody's wanted to be on the field a little bit more than maybe he has, but he's just always there. When there's a tough play being made, I don't know how to explain it, but he certainly earned more opportunities. That's for not that I'm saying he hadn't earned them before that, but he showed what he's really all about in that game, and those big moments he stepped up, and couldn't be more happy for him. And I failed to mention he caught the ball that set up the long field goal there at the end of the game. Wasn't an easy throw and catch, and he catches it, gets just enough yards, obviously based off of how far that field goal went through. those are the stories you love having. And, he was one of those guys. When I got the job, he was one of the first guys I called from folks around that knew the program, and his name may not show up all over a stat sheet, but it just shows up in so many other ways. And just a tremendous leader. He's guys look to him. He's got a voice that I certainly listen to, with our seniors, and just real happy for him, and proud of him, all those things. So thankful Luke Woodson's in this program.
Not many running backs in the country score a touchdown and then go hold the extra point.
Yeah.
That's what I love about Luke. And he was in there holding the game-winning field goal. You mentioned a lot of distractions when you're out there in San Diego that could take away from the game itself. If anyone had an excuse for being a little distracted, it would be the hometown kid and Harry Volke, but he was nails at the end of the game. What does that say about him and this team?
Yeah, Harry was, what a moment for that guy. And when we were kind of talking to him in the recruiting process, of course, I knew of Harry, competed against him, and actually, when we did beat him one of his last years there, we beat his team on like a 52-yard field goal at the buzzer, and he had made one right prior to that thinking they had won. And come to think a couple of years later, one of the things I was telling him, I'm like, hey, we do go play out in San Diego next year. You can go back home and play. And, I'm sure that didn't hurt matters, and for it to all kind of, happen the way it did, what a storybook kind of, I don't want to call it an ending because we're still going, but just for that, that chapter of this season. And, there was just so many kind of wild conversations that we had kind of leading up to that. And, because I rarely take the wind in the fourth quarter. I usually take the wind right away, and kind of try and win that middle eight, so to speak, of the game. And but I just had a feeling. I've done it one other time in my career, and it's the game I was just referring to when we played against Harry's team at our previous stops. It's the only other time I did that because I thought it might come down to a situation where we're going to want the wind. Number one, I thought we were running the ball effectively, so I didn't think the wind was going to matter. So that was part of the reason I said, well, let's fight through this third quarter and give ourselves the win. And it wasn't a drastic win, but it was enough. And and then Harry, so that was kind of one of the things. And then Harry comes up to me at halftime and says, Coach, and Michael, I don't know if you've been out to San Diego, but it's like, you got to walk up a real long hill. I mean, it takes a while to get back to the locker room, I guess is probably the best way to put it. And he just came up to me at halftime. He's like, Coach, do you care if I just stay down here at halftime and, kind of work out or just stay loose, stay warm? And usually kickers, I just say, yeah, go do your thing, go do your thing. And that's what I told him. I said, yeah, just stay down here and, stay loose, whatever it is you got to do. And, BC, our special teams coach, right before we were getting ready to kick, I said, well, what do you think? And he's like, well, he was hitting them from that spot, in pregame at halftime, and we feel good about it, just as long as we get a good snap hold, and he certainly got the leg, and that was kind of what I didn't know, did we have enough juice for it? And clearly he did. I didn't watch it, Michael, while it was going on. And
turned your back?
No, I had my hands on my knees, I had my head down, and I was just waiting for the reaction from everybody behind me. So I eventually did see it, of course, but what a moment, number one, happy for Harry to have that moment in his hometown, and then our team just to see the joy and the elation, and and all the other the friends, the family, because we had a hell of a crowd out there. Yeah. I think Brian told me he went to a tailgate or get together at some local restaurant or whatever, and he said there was a lot of people there, a lot of Drake alums, supporters, and it was a heck of a crowd. We had a lot of Drake people there, so really neat. It was first kind of road experience in the PFL. That was a pretty good deal. So had a lot of fun.
This is probably like too much for a YouTube conversation, but 2 years ago when Drake won on the Hail Mary, they were going into that wind that's coming off the coast, and that's why they threw the Hail Mary instead of trying to kick a long field goal, was because of that win. So it has played a factor in those games out there. One thing that I think is really cool about what you've done, and tie in Harry Balke, he was at NAIA Benedictine in Kansas. You spent time at Grandview, a long time at Grandview. You bring up Jaden Meisinger from Kaiser, an NAIA guy. Those are fifth-year guys that got an extra year because of that jump from NAIA to the NCAA level. What does that say about that type of football at NAIA and how they're able to really translate so seamlessly here to the FCS level?
Yeah, I think there's, Michael, I think there's really good players at every level, and sometimes guys go under-recruited, unnoticed, and then they, maybe they just fall in love with the place that they're at, and it's going to be hard to sway them away. And I think this was just kind of the perfect storm where, essentially their eligibility was up at the NAIA, and I think they were both looking, but I think they were maybe looking for the right fit because, again, they stayed at a place, for a number of years because they liked where they were at, and nothing was going to get them away from there. But now, they maybe they wanted something to, feel like where they just came from, and not maybe just go somewhere just to go. And of course, I didn't know Harry, but knew his head coach, Benedictine. He's an Iowa guy, Joel Osborne, and that I think that didn't hurt matters. And of course, he saw how our teams performed at Grandview, and Jaden in the same boat. We competed against Kaiser, where Jaden went in the semifinals in 22, and then in the national title game a year ago. And I think maybe he saw some similarities there with what he was doing there, and maybe how I was, and of course I got to know the coach down at Kaiser, probably the one that Jaden had in 2022 a little bit more so than the one that they just had. But I don't know. Again, I just think they wanted an opportunity to go play FCS Division I, or what have you, or just go play. Maybe I was the only one that called him. I don't know. I certainly think there's a lot of coaches out there that are wrong for not reaching out to him, because they're two really good players and two guys that have helped us get off to a pretty decent start here, and and hopefully kind of keep pushing this thing forward.
Yeah, a phone call definitely led to a victory here this weekend. Now, how do you guys turn your attention from a big road win in last-second form to a home game against Davidson, a team that's struggling, but you know what they're capable of?
Yeah, Michael, I think it's just a matter of going back to work, and and that was a really physical football game we just played, and a really, like you're kind of alluding to, just an emotional high. You've just got to find out, the maturity level of this team, and I think we do have that, just because we do have a number of seniors. We don't have a bunch of fifth-year seniors, maybe like the last 2 years, but we have a lot of fourth-year guys and guys that have been here for a lot of the successes that they've had, and I think, like I said, I think that matters in these kinds of, if you want to call them a bounce back or whatever, but long trip, incredible emotion that went into it. But you've got to be able to, kind of come back down from that and realize there's a lot of season left, and we're only 2 games into this thing. And, if they want to get where they want to go, they got to approach this week just like they did last week, because it was a great week of preparation. Felt really good going out there. It was just, all those other things. I didn't know how we'd handle it with the travel and all that, but they certainly handled it in stride. And now, and to me, at least we're back at home. We're not having to hop on another plane and go do it somewhere else. So I think that piece of it will help, and it's what I fully expect, is for us to come out here and play our best football game of the year, and approach it just like we have every other week, because that's, in my eyes, that's the only way to do it. And we're not giving, a couple of them came up to me before we got on the plane, "What about Sunday off, Coach?" And I said, "No." So you've won 2 games. We got to stay on this thing. And of course they laughed it off. They knew better, but there's a process to this thing, and just a way I believe in. You got to do it to keep them grounded and keep them at it. You can reward them in other ways, but Davidson's a team. They lost a coach that was highly successful, and brought in a new staff. Their offense that the coaching staff that left was more of a different style of offense than what they're running, like drastically different styles, more of an option type approach, and now they're bringing in a little bit more of a spread. So their personnel, they're still trying to figure that out a little bit. I've listened to their coach a little bit in some interviews, and they have a lot of youth on defense. But they've also played a really challenging schedule. They've played, I think, 3 scholarship programs. They played St. Thomas. I'm drawing a blank here on camera right now. They played St. Thomas a week ago, and then they played, I don't know, doesn't matter. Everybody's good in the PFL, right, Michael? So Stetson, sorry, there you go, Stetson, and they had to go down to Stetson for that. So they've had a challenging run of it with the new staff, and but they're also hungry. I think they're very capable on offense, and defensively they do enough things that can create some issues for us, and we've got to be on our toes, and certainly got a lot of respect for them, and I know our team will too as they come in here Saturday.
Big game Saturday at noon. If you're looking for tickets, go DrakeBulldogs.com/tickets. Drake 2-0 in Pioneer Football League play. We'll talk to you next week.